Eddy Goldfarb is one of the most respected toy and game inventors in the world with over 800 toys to his name. I first interviewed him in 2009 for the film Toyland and most recently for this video. Today is September 5th, 2024, and today is Eddy Goldfarb's 103rd birthday. You're in for a treat.
I'm Eddy Goldfarb, and you are watching Where's the Fun From?
Adolf Eddy Goldfarb was born on September 5th, 1921 in Chicago. His favorite toy growing up was his erector set. With an innate love of tinkering, he graduated from erector to taking apart his father's radio. He loved devouring his big brother Bernard's popular mechanics magazines. When his father brought home a dinner guest and introduced the man as an inventor, Eddy was hooked.
That's when I learned that you could call it an invention if you come up with something new. And I learned the word inventor, And that's all I ever wanted to be from then on.
When his father Louis died suddenly in 1933, 12-year-old Adolf had to go to work to help support the family. He delivered newspapers and groceries and worked as a soda jerk at a local drugstore. As Hitler rose to power, Adolf's friends began calling him Eddy. When World War II erupted, Eddy enlisted immediately.
Oh, I enlisted right away. I was, of course, very young. I was very patriotic. But I was very thankful that my parents were allowed to come to this country. My mother came from Romania, and my father came from Poland. And I was very happy about that relationship. So I enlisted early. I was interested in radar. I heard about radar, but it was very hush-hush, and you had to take a special test.
Eddy passed that test and joined the crew of the USS Batfish, a Navy submarine. Eddy was chief radio technician and responsible for any piece of equipment on the Batfish that used vacuum tubes, which included the radar, radio transmitters and receivers, the intercom, and sound equipment. While on board, he invented a specialized radar antenna and sketched up other ideas during the temporary escapes afforded to him as he worked 4-hour on and off shifts. In 1944, after the Batfish crew heard that the war had ended in Europe, Eddy planned for his future. He decided to focus on one industry and chose toys because he thought it would provide the least expensive cost of entry. He didn't know it at the time, but his first 3 successful toy ideas were already conceived on the Batfish, sketched in this notebook. After the war, Eddy returned to Chicago and on a fateful Saturday night met a girl named Anita at a dance. Eddy waited a full 24 hours before asking her to marry him, and the two were wed 9 months later. Touting a flexible plastic molding process that he had developed, Eddy wrote letters to 25 toy companies and heard back from 3. One of those companies was Marvin Glass and Associates. In 1947, Marvin Glass was a failed manufacturer of a product called Christmas tree windows. Marvin was $300,000 in debt and on the verge of bankruptcy when he received Eddy's letter. A partnership was formed around Marvin's salesmanship and Eddy's ideas. Eddy patented his first idea, the Merry-Go-Sip cup, for parents who struggled to get their kids to drink their milk. The clever design entertained the child who used it. The suction on the straw also powered a miniature carousel at the cup's top. Marvin sold the concept to Topic Toys in Chicago, and soon the Merry-Go-Sip was such a hit that department stores like Gimbel's and Pew's were advertising the cup in newspapers across the country.
When my toys caught on, and I actually heard from some parents, especially parents of children that they gave the Merry-Go-Sip to, have them drink milk, I realized that toys are really a noble industry, and I was very happy to be part of it.
Eddy's second hit toy was also sold by Marvin to Topic Toys. The Busy Biddy Chicken debuted in 1949 as a delightful little toy bird that raised her wings and laid an egg each time you pressed her down. According to this article, Topic Toys sold 12.5 million copies of Eddy's Little Bird, making her a biddy that was quite busy indeed. Third time's a charm. If the first two ideas that Eddy ever licensed were colossal hits, then he outdid himself with his third licensed toy.
The story behind this item is that I saw an ad in a magazine. It was a ceramic holder for false teeth. And I thought it was very funny, you know. At that age, you think false teeth are funny.
The idea of a set of false teeth moving down the road and eventually needing a garage to park in inspired Eddy to create a set of false teeth that moved on their own. He patented his novelty and amusement device in November of '48. Marvin sold the idea to Irving Fishlove. H. Fishlove and Company was a Chicago-based firm that specialized in boxed gag gifts that were static and played heavily on puns, bathroom humor, and sexual innuendo. Comparatively, Eddy's wind-up teeth must have seemed like a technological leap forward in laughter. They were weirdly unsettling, a chomping set of zombie dentures that shook and walked on their own. In 1949, Yakity-Yak talking teeth started walking off of store shelves and never stopped. Known commonly as chattering teeth, they've been continuously on the market now for 75 years. Knocked off by dozens of companies who added everything from eyes and feet and have entered the pop culture consciousness with appearances in commercials.
Did somebody say this thing?
TV shows, cartoons,
Oh, look! Funny teeth!
They're wind-up joke teeth. Very popular.
and in movies with Woody Allen.
The teeth chatter. They're plastic.
And even Batman. Eddy's groundbreaking gag even pops up in museums. The Sarasota Toy Museum is today's sponsor. This 6,000 square foot fun factory displays a vast collection of the greatest toys in history, including antique toys, cap guns, and vintage lunchboxes, action figures, comic books, and so much more. Its flagship feature is a huge HO scale train layout that spans a meticulously constructed landscape with over 28,000 handmade trees. Of course, the museum includes more than its fair share of Eddy Goldfarb originals, so be sure to support this channel by putting the Sarasota Toy Museum on your destination bucket list. As great as this is, it's not even my favorite mental dental idea that Eddy came up with.
It was a tooth on a toothpick, and then the roots of the tooth was dipped in red paint. And the idea was that you would be out with your girlfriend or your wife and eating dinner, and she'd look around and you put the tooth in your mouth as if you're using a toothpick and move around, and then you would yell, in pain, and you'd pull out this bloody tooth. So it ruined many a dinner.
Yank-A-Tooth was another hit for Topic Toys in 1950, and one of the last toys Eddy made for Marvin Glass to sell. On the back of the box it read, "Created by M. Glass and Associates," but Marvin hadn't created the product, Eddy had. It's one thing to take all the credit, and it's another thing to take all the money.
Marvin and I split. It wasn't a nice split up. In fact, he never sent me the money that I had coming from royalties and stuff. So it was a bad deal. Irving Fishlove told me it's better to lose a finger than the whole arm. Forget about it, just go on.
Eddy's first big hit on his own was Vac-U-Form, an idea he brought to Elliott Handler, the co-founder of Mattel. The meeting didn't start off well for Eddy, but as always, his optimism prevailed.
He loved the item. He really loved it. But I burned his desk, his beautiful desk. So that was kind of, but he didn't care. He loved the item. Now, if he didn't like the item, he might have said something, bring along a sheet of asbestos or something when you pitch this item.
And Vac-U-Form was big for Mattel.
Oh, it's very big.
Here's what a Vac-U-Form can do. Look at the things it'll make for you. One kit you buy will fill a zoo, and this new kit makes trucks for you. That's what a Vac-U-Form can do.
Vac-U-Form was released in 1962 at a time when safety standards were much more lax. It makes sense that Mattel would love the Vac-U-Form. It used the same sales model as Mattel's Barbie, released 3 years prior. Sell a quality core product line and establish it in the marketplace, and then you can sell all kinds of accessories to play along with it. Thingmaker, aka Creepy Crawlers, was released in 1963 as a part of the Vac-U-Form line. The toy featured plastic goop, which was squeezed into die-cast metal molds that were heated to almost 400 degrees. The heat cured the plastic, turning it from liquid to rubbery solid, and voila! You made a thing. The Thingmaker line had a series of successful launches, including Creeple People in '65, Fright Factory in '66, and even a candy maker called Incredible Edibles in '67. By the early 1970s, new safety regulations sent Thingmaker and Vac-U-Form into early retirement. They came back briefly in 1978, but then super successfully in 1995 under Toymax. In 1994, the toy even got its own animated series.
Was it something I did?
And in 2018, Variety announced that a Creepy Crawlers movie was in the works. All of it owing to Eddy's ingenuity. The Ideal Novelty and Toy Company was founded in 1903 when Morris and Rose Mictum invented the teddy bear. The company name was eventually shortened to Ideal. Eddy and Ideal would eventually form one of the most playful and profitable partnerships the toy industry had ever seen. But the relationship had a rough start.
I went to Chicago for the hobby show, and I had very little money. So anyway, I got to the show, and they wouldn't let me in because I was an inventor, not a exhibitor. And so I walked around the building, and I found an open door. And I went inside, and I was at the rear of the exhibits. And I walked around. I thought I saw a door, and I pushed it, and I knocked down Ideal's exhibit. And I jumped over the little wall there and ran. And I said, "That's silly. I better go back and apologize." And I did, and they laughed it off. I scared the hell out of them, the salesman, this guy jumping out of the background. And that's how I first went to Ideal.
That speaks to how charming you must have been as a young man, that you could knock over their booth, and not only do they forgive you, but they end up working with you. That's awesome.
Oh, I ended up making over 50 items with them.
Of all the games that Eddy licensed to Ideal, one in particular stood the test of time.
Start with the sticks, like so, making a bed where the marbles go. You don't want those marbles, not at all.
We keep it cool, play the fool. Be a song, cause we're playing KerPlunk. KerPlunk, you're gonna love KerPlunk.
KerPlunk. The heart and soul of that item really was Rene Soriano, one of the guys who worked for me.
As a kid growing up in the late 1920s, Eddy loved playing with marbles. But unlike most kids who have a love affair with these tiny glass orbs, Eddy's never ended. Over his career, he made many games with marbles. But if I had to put my boyhood allowance on the line and choose just one Eddy Goldfarb original, it would have to be the bout of the century.
Now, Ideal's Battling Tops Championship. The contestants are winding their tops, getting into position, and the battle's on. Look at those tops battle for position. Watson's top is down. But it's up again. Anything can happen in battling tops. Valenti's tops are knocked clear out of the arena. Watson's the winner. Champ, what's your secret?
It's in the wrist action.
Battling tops from Ideal, the good game people.
This is the sound of my childhood. Battling tops came with 6 spinning combatants.
Beyblades and all these battling top games all started with your idea.
Yeah.
So there was a top called, I think it was Twirling Tim. So I always wanted to be Twirling Tim, but Hurricane Hank always seemed to knock me out of the ring. I don't know why. But thank you for a lot of joy when I was a kid.
Thank you very much.
Through the 60s and 70s, Eddy's success was largely in games, but in 1980 he had a hit toy that stomped the competition.
Stompers!
Stomper fun by fours with raw power to tackle just about anything you throw their way. And come four-wheel driving back for more and more. Battery not included.
Eddy's ingenious design was a single motor that turned both axles via a single AA battery, making Stompers the first four-wheel drive battery-powered electric toys.
Each sold separately from Chopper.
Stompers have been sold by numerous companies over the years and have a rabid following of fans and collectors who can't get enough of the line, evidenced by the prices they pay to revisit their 80s childhood. With over 200 million reportedly sold, the Stomper line just might be the best-selling battery-operated vehicle line in toy history. The 80s were very good to Eddy and his team of designers, which grew to include his son Martin. In 1988, Martin had a hit game with Milton Bradley called Shark Attack.
The fish that survives is the winner.
It's coming to get you.
Sink your teeth into Shark Attack.
Today, Martin and Eddy still design together and have a hit on their hands with a new game called Forklift Frenzy. I asked Eddy where the idea came from.
And I must have run into a forklift in some warehouse someplace. What you're doing with it's a miniature forklift, and you're piling up barrels, one on top of each other, and the one who can pile up the most barrels wins.
When it comes to the Goldfarbs, talent runs in the family. Eddy's daughter Lyn has been nominated for an Academy Award and is a 2-time Emmy-winning documentary filmmaker who has created an absolute classic about an absolute classic. Eddy's World is a film that Lyn made about her dad, and one that I can't recommend highly enough. She has captured the brightness, optimism, and wonder that is her father. If you've enjoyed this video, even a little, then you really need to do yourself a favor and watch Eddy's World. He was the first American to receive the International Designers and Inventors of Toys Award in 1993. He was inducted into the Toy Industry Hall of Fame in 2003, and in 2010 received the Taggy Lifetime Achievement Award from the People of Play. He has been a dutiful son, a soda jerk, a chief radio technician for the U.S. Navy, a husband, a father, a toy inventor, the subject of a documentary film, and if all those titles and accolades weren't enough, you can add writer to the list. In 2023, Eddy wrote It's Gonna Be a Big Day, 101 100-word stories by a 101-year-old. Every story in the book is precisely 100 words long, all imbued with Eddy's eternal optimism.
Well, Eddy, I can't thank you enough. You're such an inspiration, and I don't know if I would be a toy and game inventor if you didn't exist, because I loved your game so much as a kid, and I really just want to thank you.
Oh, thanks a lot. That's very nice to hear.
Happy birthday, Eddy, and thanks again for giving so many of us so much. And thank you for watching. Life is short. Seize the play.